Welcome to Unbreakable Latina. Hi guys, welcome back to Unbreakable Latina. This is your host Melina. I hope you're having an amazing day, whatever day you're listening to this on. And I have a special guest here with me, my friend Ruben. Welcome, Ruben, to Unbreakable
Hi.
Latina.
Thank you so much for having me. And saludo a todas las bonitas y a las feas también.
Gracias por saludos.
No todas somos bonitas.
I know, it's hard out here por las feitas, pero proud feita over here. So I've been wanting to have Ruben on the podcast for a long time. Ruben and I are co-workers, and we met, and it was hate at first sight.
No.
It was not hate at first sight, pero pensé que Ruben era bien creído. Like, I really thought that.
Sí soy.
Sí es, ¿verdad?
Sí soy.
Yeah, he would give me that vibe of very standoffish. And I was always like, what? Like, I smiled at him y él volteaba para el otro lado.
No
I
es
remember,
cierto.
sí cierto.
No, no es cierto.
Sí cierto. Tú no sabes cómo yo me
estaba
sentía.
trabajando. I was busy working.
I go to work to work, not to make friends. Well, anyways, that's how my initial interaction with Ruben was. Like, I was like a very standoffish guy, and I don't even know how we met. I think a coworker introduced us to each other, and then we both got promoted, and then we got trauma bonded together.
We did trauma bond.
Then we were both going through breakups at the same time, remember?
We were.
Es por eso, ¿verdad?
También.
Yes,
sí,
ahí estábamos en lunch break, like, I fucking
Literally
hate
in tears.
him. He ruined my life. And we've been friends ever since. A lot of people confuse Ruben for my boyfriend because we're always together. But he makes it known. He makes it known that we are nothing. We're might not even be friends sometimes. He's scary.
We're colleagues.
We're colleagues. Just two colleagues doing a podcast together. But the reason that I wanted to bring Ruben in is because, Ruben, you're honestly like my first gay friend.
Really?
Yeah. Like,
interesting.
Yeah, I've never had a
I
gay
didn't know
friend
that.
before. No, I'm telling you, I'm slipping. This is where I tell everybody my tea. But I've never had a gay friend. And Ruben and I have become very close, and he's been like educating me on the LGBTQ community.
Well, sí.
A little bit.
A little bit.
But I feel comfortable asking him questions.
Okay, yeah.
Like, in that sense where I'm like, hey, Ruben, is this the proper way to say something? Or if I say something wrong, he'll like, hey, you should say it this way. Like,
yeah, sí.
Well, because I never had anybody like teach me that, you know, and it's something.
That's true. I have a little bit of insight of what the queer community happens and what things are changing a lot in the last couple of years. It's a lot of things are becoming mainstream as well. So when you ask me things like that, I'm like, how do you know that? So,
Yeah.
But it's good to like, you know,
To
educate people.
yeah.
But I'm just like, I think I talk a lot about my experience as a gay man.
Mm-hmm. As a Latino gay man.
Yeah, more than trying to educate, it's just like, well, this is how I interpret things.
His perception, how he perceives things. And I think it's an important conversation to have because it's something, like you said, that's very new. And also coming from like a machista background and growing up in Mexican households, it's something that's not talked about. And a lot of people could be ashamed of talking about being gay or coming out to the parents, to the family, or just the community in general being accepted.
Yeah, that's very right. I was blessed with a really good family.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
they loved me. And I was never scared of coming out to my parents. But the way society would treat me and my parents, that's what I was scared of. So I was bringing shame to my family. Mm-hmm. So I wasn't scared of my parents. I was scared of the rest of the world, how they were.
The community was going to perceive your family.
My family, especially, my parents, like, especially since we're from a very small town, a very Catholic town. So
tell us about growing up in a small town. So where did you grow up?
I grew up in Holtville, California. You probably don't know where it's at. Está ya en la Quinta Madre.
En el desierto.
En el desierto, Imperial County, cerquitas de Mexicali, representing Águilas. So I grew up there, really small town. My parents, loving parents, immigrants, worked really hard. Got their shit together, got us a house. So growing up, it was great. It was fun, but I always knew I was different.
When did you know that you were different? Like, what age, if you could, like, remember, at what age did you know, like, you were not the same as other boys?
I remember being, like, in kinder, y que todos los morritos querían jugar soccer, and I'm like, oh.
I don't want to get dirty.
No, I get dirty. No quiero sudar, no quiero ensuciarme, nada. And I remember, like, being like, why are they playing that?
Why do they like to work out and sweat?
No, for reals. I was like, no, eso no. But I just knew I was different. I didn't know what was different, but I knew I was different. And I feel like as a very young kid, I was very emotionally intelligent. And I could tell that people reacted different to me compared to other boys.
In what sense?
Like, me mimaban mucho las maestras. Ay, mijo, si quieres quédate en el recreo so you could help me with this. And I'm like, you don't ask the other boys that. Why are you asking me? And now that I'm an adult, I noticed that they knew that these boys were going to bully me.
So they wanted to protect you.
They were going to protect me.
Oh, that's sweet.
So I knew they were like, I just noticed the differences and also noticed that fucking kids are assholes. Y se burlaban de mí. Yo no entendía por qué. I'm like, why are they like talking shit about me? And then no entendía like why the way I was so caused that kind of anger in people. And I was just like, but I was a kid. I was like 7, 6, 5. And I understood that there was something about me that caused a reaction on people. And I didn't understand what it was, but I knew it was there. So that caused a lot of issues growing up. Lo era gordito. So, aparte que te burlan, que eras gordito, te burlan porque eras niña. That was the thing que me decían. Ah, eres como niña.
And you're the oldest of your family, right?
I am the oldest. I only have one sibling, a younger sister.
No siblings when you were growing up, because your sister is like, you have a age gap, right?
Yeah, we're 5 years apart. She's younger than me. So.
And how was it when your sister was born?
It was good. Like when I found out it was a little sister, for some reason I was more excited that it was a girl than a boy. I kind of remember being excited about that. But it was a 5-year gap, so no. We were close, but I mean, we didn't grow up. We weren't in the same grade or in the same classes where we could like hang out or anything.
And at what age did you learn the term like being gay, or did you learn about being gay?
I didn't.
You didn't?
I didn't know what gay was. And I remember I was in middle school and some boy said, se burló de mí, lo dijo, you fucking gay lord. And I was like, I don't know what that means.
Yeah. Antes no teníamos social media como ahorita, que it's so easy accessible to us. It's like, so what did you do after that?
Like, well, for context, I'm 37, so this was in the 90s or late 90s.
There you old.
I see, I llevas tú.
Ay.
Pero I remember just that the boys saying, like, him and other boys, like, saying things to me, and I didn't understand what they meant. They were like, and I agree, there's a lot of things, like, in the gay community as a gay boy, where they call you, like, cocksucker, and you don't even know what cock is. You're like, I don't know what that means. Like,
especialmente, like, I feel like when we grew up, I'm like 3 years younger than you, but we didn't know anything about sex. We didn't know anything about gay, or, like, I didn't learn about, like, sex probably until, like, 16, 17, maybe.
Yeah. And our parents don't talk about that stuff
Latino parents, Mexican parents, they do not touch on those subjects.
And then when I was growing up, there wasn't any kind of characters on TV, or there was no internet. Well, there was internet, but it wasn't like social media now where I could see gay people that I kind of related to. Like, there was nothing, absolutely nothing.
No one had stories of coming out or anything like that.
Not at all. Like, I remember there was 2 shows at Will and Grace, which was about a 30-year-old lawyer in New York. How do I relate to that?
Yeah.
And then the other show was Queer as Folk. It was on HBO. Era así como bien risky, like Sex and the City, but the gay version, which were like gay characters that lived in Philly or something, but they were rich, and I was just like, how do I relate to that?
Yeah.
So no había como young kids growing up, figuring out who they are. So I never knew. Like, so it was just like all the information I got was from the outside.
Or of people that were most likely picking on you.
Exactly. So I learned, or I associated me being gay, which I didn't know I was gay. I just knew I was different, to being negative. And luego, like, I was gordito, so I was very, like, insecure. I was very, like, I started, like, shutting down. I wouldn't, and I get sad sometimes.
I know, I'm getting emotional thinking about it.
I'm like, dude, I was a kid, and I didn't let myself just be. Like, I was really smart. In school, I was really smart. And, like, when the teacher...
Oh, yes, that's smart.
When the teacher pregunta, like, oh, like, what is 2 plus 2? Who knows? I knew, but I never raised my hand because I'm like...
You don't want attention on you.
If I answer, they're all going to make fun of me because I have, like, weird voice or have mannerisms. So I wouldn't say anything. I'm just like, yeah, I know the answer, but I'm not going to say anything. So it was always like that. And then I didn't participate in a lot of stuff. They're like, oh, we're doing a field trip to so-and-so. And I'm like, well, the kids are kind of dicks, so I'm not gonna go.
So you were very antisocial, just like trying not to
Yeah, I was
put
very...
yourself in situations donde te pueden hacer la burla o algo.
Exactly. Así me protegía. Like, I'm not gonna participate in this. I'm not gonna go there. I'm not gonna do that to protect myself. I'm like, that's how I do it. So I became very isolated, I feel. I did have selective friends, mostly were girls, because that's who I related to. Los boys se me hacían como bien mensos. I'm like, you guys are
Todavía.
yeah. So me hacían como like, ay, no, qué hueva. So I would hang out with all the girls. And they were like a little bit, I feel like girls always mature a little bit sooner than boys. So siempre me juntaba con las girls. They were like, vamos a leer libros. Yo, oh, okay, qué hueva, pero I prefer that than playing soccer. So, pero I was related to girls. So I knew something was different. And like I said, I noticed how adults started treating me different than other boys. Mm-hmm. And in a positive way where they were protecting me, and a negative way too. I noticed like adults that didn't like me, and I'm like, dude, I'm a kid.
Like family members or just like people in the community?
People in the community. Like, I remember, ¿cómo se llaman las que te cuidan en el recreo? Like
what do they call it? TAs or whatever?
Yeah.
Like,
and they would like be like, Ruben, you have to play football with the boys. And I'm like, well, I don't want to. And they're like, well, you have to, you're a boy. And I'm like, fuck. No quiero.
Y antes era así, ¿verdad? Que, tienes que ponerte azul porque eres boy. I feel like now parents are more like, because we are having these conversations and like, we're a different generation where we're like, it's okay that you're not identified by a color because of, you know, your gender or whatever. Yeah. Back then it was like, tienes que jugar como niño.
And then, like I said, I was very blessed with my parents. They're really cool. And I think early on, they caught on. Obviously, they didn't say anything and they were kind of just let me be. And so they never forced me to... I mean, my dad's a baseball player. So he wanted me to play baseball so bad. I tried it. And as soon as I was like, no. And they didn't force me. They're like, okay, el niño no quiere jugar. No hay que forzarlo. Y me llamaba mucho la atención. A mi hermana le robaba las Barbies. ¿Sí? Pero me llamaba mucha atención el pelo. Y ahora estoy pelón. Pero...
Siempre quería pelo el muchacho.
Pero me llamaba mucho atención el pelo. And my parents
¿Como peinarlas o nomás?
Peinarlas, o sea, nomás estar peinándolas. Y luego, like, my parents, I guess they caught on. So they're like, and it's a different time. So my parents, instead of buying me Barbies, they're like, mijo, ¿no te gusta el caballo que tiene pelo? Y yo como, sí. So they would buy me those horses, those like porcelain horses, yeah. Like para hacer like and I would like, con eso jugaba, or like, I mean, I had boy toys too, like dinosaurs and all that stuff. Pero el pelo me llama mucho la atención. And I think that's the first sign I gave my parents that were like, oh shit, este niño. Pero they were always cool. They never forced me to do anything. They always made sure that I knew that I was loved. No matter what, I was loved. I was cared for and I was loved. So later on in life, that's why I was never scared to come out to my parents. But it was more like a fear of society and how society would perceive me and my parents and my family, especially being from such a small town. Yeah,
especially how you said it's like a religious town. Not only that.
Dude, like there's like 10 churches in that town.
Who's the first person that you came out to?
Well, it's a long process. So I always grew up knowing I was different. And I was very different. And sounds like a dick, pero yo sentía que era más inteligente emocionalmente que todos los demás. I was like, I know something's different about me, and I would cut on, like I would catch on.
You're like, I'm better than all you guys.
Technically, sí. Pero like, I was just like, something's different about me, like, and I can't pinpoint what it is, and I don't understand why people me ponían al lado. Like, there was always this thing, and there was like, obviously there was like signs, como like, I had a lot of girlfriends, muchas amiguitas, and I'd be like, oh, we're gonna have a sleepover. Yo, pues yo quiero ir.
But they're like,
everybody's like,
Our parents wouldn't allow porque uno que sabe.
And I remember I would ask my mom, que mi amiga que va a hacer un sleepover. Me dijo, no, tú no. Otro día van a hacer otra cosa. Like, she would try to like divert it. And I'm like, pero yo quiero ir.
Yo quiero al sleepover.
Ajá. Y luego me acuerdo que mi amiga me dijo, mi mamá dijo que mejor otro día. And ella también, we were little friends. Like, so she's like, it's so weird. Like, my other friend can come, but you can't. So like, there was little things like that, like in life that I was like, something's different. Algo está pasando. So, also my parents, they didn't know how to talk to me about it, other than telling me, I love you, I love you, I love you.
But they always showing you love.
But they didn't know how to...
Go about it.
Yeah, contextualize it and say like, hey, esto está pasando with you. Or if... I remember in middle school, when you're a little bit older, 12, 13, and I remember I had like a crush on a boy. And that's when I really understood. I'm like, I think I'm like boys. And also by this time, ya teníamos dinero, so ya había MTV en la tele.
Ay.
And I remember there was like shows a little bit more with gay characters, like The Real World, where they had gay
Yeah.
characters in there. So that's when I was like, wait, so
There's
that guy
people like me.
likes guys. I'm like, well, I like that boy at school. So I was starting to connect dots a little bit. So when I first came out, I was like 15, and I told my friends, the girls. And then that's one thing todas las girls, thank you so much. Like, you guys literally saved my life.
Oh.
Like, without those girls, como, life would have been a lot harder. Y me protegían tanto.
Y todavía.
Sí, no, sí, todavía. Honestly, yeah, like when we go out and stuff, I could tell you immediately, like, si un vato se pone el tiro conmigo, I know you would, like, step in immediately.
You guys know. I'm classy, but I could be ghetto when needed. Yeah, definitely.
So when
I'm very protective of him. Like, if anybody talking shit, who the fuck? I could talk shit about Ruben. You can't talk shit about Ruben.
But yeah, like, that's how I told the girls, and they were just literally looked at me, they're like, yeah, we know. And I was like, ay, ¿a poco sabía? So it was really cool. Like, my coming out to my friends was very
easy.
It was chill. Like, it was like, literally we had one conversation. We're like, all right, what are we going to do next? And I hung out with the girls. Like, como que siempre me protegieron mucho. And I will always be so grateful of that. Like, I remember, like, in high school, like, boys would, like, talk shit about me. They would always, like, say things behind my back. Como que ya in high school, people wouldn't directly tell me stuff. It was more behind my back.
No, porque yo creo a esa edad ya te puedes defender. And then you have your little crew, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And I had a crew where they knew, like, oh, shit, like, Ruben hangs out with so-and-so. Y todas mis amigas estaban guapas. So they decían... Están, perdón. So they knew, they were like, if we attack Ruben, las girls no nos van a pelar.
Yeah, and then being from a small town, too.
Yeah, oh, yeah, we all know each other. And that's how it all started. Because I was the gay friend. The guys started being friends with me because they wanted to be friends with the girls.
So you're the wingman.
I was. And I flew with it, to be honest.
Because you finally felt probably like, okay, I found my people. I could be myself.
Well, not necessarily at the beginning. At the beginning, I knew what it was. Like I said, I feel like I was always very intelligent. I was like one step ahead of it. And I knew the guys were talking to me to get to the girls. But I'm like, but this is my chance to be part of something, be cool with the guys and
do things
and be invited to these high school parties. And that's how it all started. And then eventually later on in life, they're like, hey, you're really cool, like, without even considering your friends or the girls. So it was but I knew that's how it started. And pero ya se me olvidó la pregunta.
Oh, who's the first person you came out to?
Oh, my friends.
Yeah.
So the girls, and like I said, it was very easy. It was chill. They literally looked at me like, cool.
Ya sabemos. Ya sabemos.
Si tuve una amiga that she didn't have an issue with it at all. She was super cool, but she was the only one that asked further questions.
Like what?
She was like, she didn't understand what gay was. So she's like, okay, so what does gay mean? None of them asked me. She's like, what does gay mean? I'm like, que me gustan, like, guys. And she's like, okay, so do you want to be a woman? And I'm like, no. She's like, okay. And then back then there was no terms for this, like trans or anything like that. So you know, like, I don't want to be a woman. Like, I'm okay with being a guy. I just like other guys. And I remember she asked me so many questions. And I remember thinking, like, this is so interesting. You're the only one that's asking me. Everybody else was just like, okay, cool. I don't think there was much information about it.
Yeah.
So they were just like, okay, well, cool. We don't know what to say about it. So we're just going to not avoid it, but just move on. Y ella sí me hizo muchas preguntas. And I thought at the time, and even now, I'm like, that was really cool and very interesting how she wanted to educate herself.
Yeah. So you came out to your friends at, you said 15, right?
I was 15. I was a freshman.
Y luego de ahí, ¿a cuánto tiempo duraste to come out to your parents?
I did it my senior year of high school, so I was like 17.
Como 2-3 years after?
Yeah. So...
And how was that, coming out to your parents? Like you said, you weren't afraid to come out to your parents, but you were afraid of the perception that your parents were going to have, like, with their families or with the community, right?
Yes. It wasn't as hard. Like, I wish I had, like, a better dramatic story, but I don't. So when I came out with the girls knew and they were cool about it. This is also when MySpace came out. So I had a MySpace account.
These listeners probably don't know what
I know.
MySpace is.
Es como un Facebook, pero para viejos.
Yeah.
Y luego...
It was cool, okay.
And I started meeting like other gay boys around my age from the neighboring towns. So we started connecting. So the internet does have good things sometimes. So I was just like connecting with other boys where I'm like, hey, like they're kind of like me. And in my high school, it's small high school. There was two other, maybe that's another story. Te les cuento. But I started connecting with other people and I was like, okay, cool. Like there's other people like me. And then Holtville is a border town con Mexicali. So allá las quinceañeras are always in Mexicali because it's cheaper. So cuando íbamos las quinceañeras.
And then you go underage drink too.
Yeah. So nos íbamos a los antros. So we would go to a quinceañera and then, or I would lie to my mom, be like, vamos a ir a una quinceañera. And
Pero van al club.
We would go to the club. So one time, because of MySpace, que había un club que se llamaba Mirage, todavía me acuerdo. Y me acuerdo que pasamos. Y luego dije a las girls, hey, hay un club ahí, like, it's a gay club. Do you guys want to go?
How old were you? You were a senior, you said?
No, I was a junior, so I was like 16,
16.
17. Yeah. And then the girls were like, sí, vamos. And we walked in. Well, gave the bouncer $5. Walked in. Gay club. Like, gay people dancing. I remember I was like, so like, what the
Shocked?
fuck? Like, it's going on. Like, but I was 16, 17 maybe. No, I think I was 16. Mm-hmm. For the first time, I was like, whoa. Like, there's other people.
There's a whole new world out there.
Yeah. And then for the first time, like, my friends were like, oh, okay, me gusta fulanito, and I'm dating so-and-so. And I felt like that was so, like, foreign to me. I'm like, I don't have access to dating boys. I don't have access to having crushes. And if I did have a crush, it was calladito, because if you say it, everybody's going to pick on you. They're going to make fun of you. So, like, when I walked into a gay bar, to a gay club, and I see all these men dancing with each other, I was like, I've never even seen men dance with each other. So it was kind of like, what the fuck? Like, what's going on? Y de ahí como ya empecé, like, like I said, MySpace, connecting with other guys, stuff. So by the time I came out to my parents, I was a little bit more, like, okay.
Sure, a little more sure of who you were.
Yeah, I was 100% sure of who I was by then. Y también, I also gave my parents, like, hints throughout, like, my high school.
¿Cómo que?
I would say, like, oh, you nunca me voy a casar. Mm-hmm. Back then, this is how old I am. Back then, gay marriage was not legal. So I would say, like, oh, I'm not going to get married. And my mom, ¿por qué no? ¿Por qué no? And I would say, like, yo no voy a tener hijos. Yo no quiero hijos. And my mom, ¿cómo no vas a tener hijos? Yo, ¿por qué no?
So you're, like, kind of preparing them for, like, the big news.
I definitely was. And, like, I was definitely, like, giving hints out there, like, oh, like, I don't want kids. I don't want to get married. So I feel like I was, like
tiptoeing around, yeah.
Kind of giving, like, spoon food.
Little
like,
breadcrumbs.
Like, just kind of let him know.
Yeah.
So finally, when I was 18... So my coming out story is a little dramatic because he's almost todos.
He is dramatic in general.
Como dije, we went to Mexicali, era una noche, went to Mexicali, got fucking wasted. Andábamos in a club. And then, pues en aquel tiempo teníamos los teléfonos, los viejos, los grandotes. And I remember my parents were calling me and I would kept denying it or declining.
Why? Because it was late? Or?
Sí, dije, si contesto, me van a decir que me vaya a la casa y no me quiero ir. So finally, we cross the border, go back home. My parents are awake, waiting for me.
What time was this?
Eran como las 4 o 5 de la mañana. Los clubs cierran hasta las 3.
Perdón, yo no sé.
Yo me tenía que quedar.
A cerrar.
So, me acuerdo que llegué, and they're like... And by this time, they had given me, like, a hand-me-down car, and I had my cell phone. And they're like... And it was, like, my senior year, so I was like, I have a lot of activities to do. I'm busy. Like, I need my phone, I need a car.
Te lo querían quitar.
So, de volada, ¿qué está pasando? Te vamos a quitar el teléfono, te vamos a quitar el carro. Ya estuvo, Ruben, siempre nos mientes. Así como, like... Because I had been, like, going out a lot, and I'd be...
Te estabas descontrolando.
Sí. So, yo dije, la madre, ¿qué voy a hacer? Mamá, soy gay.
His defense.
And I knew that if I said that, they were not going to take away my phone or my car. So, pero it turned out to be a great thing because, like, I finally said it. And finally, even though my parents had suspected it for so long, for so many years, I think for them it was also like, okay, it's true. All our suspicions are true. Fuck. También para ellos it was like a big deal.
Yeah.
I remember my dad started crying and he just hugged me. And he's like, mijo, te amo, eres todo para mí, y no me importa, eres mi hijo. And I was just like, okay. My mom did the same thing, but eventually my mom had a harder time, not because of me being gay. For her fear was like, my kid is going to have a harder life than everybody else.
Yeah.
And I think that was like eating her up at the beginning. And I remember I didn't understand it at the time, but I was just like, is my mom kind of rejecting me? Mm-hmm. But it wasn't that.
She just didn't know.
She was just so scared. Yeah. She's like, mi hijo, lo que más quiero en esta vida is going to have it harder. And why is it? Like, she felt so like, fuck, like life is going to be harder.
Probably helpless. Like, she's not going to be able to protect you your whole life, you know? Exactly. Especially at the age where you came out, it was like 18, you're ready to go to college.
Exactly.
Like, and she knew
I think that was her biggest fear. She's like, he's about to leave to college in a couple months.
From this small town.
And how am I going to protect him? And like, my parents were very smart. My mom immediately went through therapy. Not therapy to like accept someone being gay. Therapy to be a better mom. Yeah. She read books.
How can she be there for you?
Yeah, and she read books. I saw her. I remember seeing the books at the house.
Like, she ordered book, went to the library or something?
Sí, like she would, she went, I don't know, en Mexicali, iba a las bibliotecas, and then she would get books como, just like stories of other moms saying how they dealt with their kids being gay. So it was kind of interesting. And I remember, like, parece novela. I remember one time I called her to her cell phone. Mm-hmm. And, you know, Mexican parents no saben. So I think she just, like, answered it, but she meant to decline it. Y como que dejó el teléfono ahí y estaba con la psicóloga.
Oh, at her, like, visita?
Uh-huh. And they were talking about me. I stayed on the phone to listen. And that's where I understood, okay, my mom is not ashamed of me. My mom is not, you know, is not having a hard time accepting me. My mom is just scared my mom is more mad at the world for the way they're going to treat me. Mm-hmm. Because I heard the entire, like, session.
¿Y qué dijo?
She was just, like, la doctora diciendo, like, yo quiero proteger a mi hijo. I remember her saying, like, quiero proteger a mi hijo, ¿qué voy a hacer?
What are the chances that you would have heard that conversation? It was, like, meant to be, you know?
Exactly. No, and I never told her that I heard that conversation. I must send this to your mom. So I remember I heard all that. And that's the moment where I was just like, okay, my mom, she's cool with it. She's just scared. And like I said, I always felt like I was very, like, intelligent. Like, I understood. I'm like, okay, my mom's cool about it. So I don't have to worry about my mom rejecting me. But it wasn't all that. I mean, it was easy overall, but there was little things like, I didn't feel the need to come out to my primos and my tias. I'm like,
what about your sister?
I literally sat her down. I'm like, hey, like,
right after your parents, like, or...
I think like 2 nights later, because after I came out to my parents, obviously there was tension in the house and there was like awkwardness.
Just awkwardness, yeah.
My sister caught on. At the time, my sister was probably 13, maybe 14. No, 12 or 13. Mm-hmm. So I sat her down. I'm like, hey, I have to tell you something. And she's like, what's up? I'm like, well, I'm gay. And I told mom and dad. And she just literally looked at me. She's like, okay.
All right, carry on.
Yeah, no, literally. I remember she laughed and she's like, you thought I didn't know? And I'm like, I don't know. I'm like, can you at least make a big deal about it?
Can you cry? Can we have a moment?
So, but no, my sister's super cool about it. To her, it's like so normal. And I love my sister. Like, I think one time she shared with me, I think her senior year, she had to write a paper, who's the person you admire the most?
It was you?
And she wrote about me. And I didn't know until like after. She told me like maybe a couple months after she wrote it.
Did you frame it?
No, ni sé dónde está.
Where's the essay? We want to see it. Or maybe she just told you that to get on your great side.
Right? But yeah, so me and my sister, we get along super cool. We're not as close as we used to. No, yeah. Decimos viejos, so everyone has their own life.
And when you say that you didn't feel the need to come out to your, like, primos, primas, did they know? Or, like, did your mom tell them? Or
this is where a little bit gets... obviously, everybody kind of knew.
Yeah.
It was kind of, like, obvious. My mom is the matriarch in the family. Ella la que manda, ella la que...
Es la patrona.
Ajá. Entonces, like, mi abuela se atiende mucho a mi mamá. So all my tios, which are, like, fucking 10 of them, they knew, like, my mom is la chingona, so we don't mess with her.
Or her kids.
And that, yeah. So I was not super close. There was 3 tias I was really close to them, and I told them myself, and they were cool about it. They were just literally like, oh, okay, mijo. But they already knew.
Because your mom had already prepared them.
My mom had told them. And that's where I had an issue with my mom. Like, Mom, this is my coming out, not yours. So I don't need you to come out to my primos and my tias and my grandma. And I'm really close to grandma. But I knew my grandma was never going to accept it. Old school. Catholic and bien a la antigua. Hasta la fecha, I've never told her directly. It's super obvious. She asks everybody else, ¿y la novia? Except for me. Like, she literally will skip me.
La novia.
Yeah. Pero my mom told the family. And I feel like you didn't need to do that. That was my story. A story that I did not want to share with them. I don't care if they had all the suspicions in the world. I don't give a fuck.
And why were you hesitant? Just...
I wasn't super close to my family. Like,
it wasn't important for you to tell them.
No. It wasn't important. And there's old school mentality, like Mexican families, como, well, es tu familia. And I'm like, sí son, pero no me dan ni me quitan. So no ocupo decirles nada.
And sometimes you just have closer relationships with people that are not even blood related to you that you could confide in with something like that.
Definitely. And at the time, I was just like, except for like 3 tias that I was like, I want to tell them. But because I want to tell them and I want to keep a relationship with them. Everybody else, to be honest, I'm like,
te valía madre.
Si me dejan de hablar, me dejan de hablar. Like, being gay or not gay, like, I don't even care if they don't talk to me.
Because you didn't have a relationship prior, so why no?
And I feel like a lot of my family relationships are based on my mom. Eres el hijo de. So I was just kind of like, then you don't need to know anything besides that. Because I don't care to be cool with you. But my mom, because ella es la patrona de toda la familia, she felt that she had to let everybody know and set them straight. Like, if you talk shit about my son, te la vas a ver conmigo.
You're cut.
Y como que todos la respetan mucho. So they're like, fuck. And I'm sure they talk shit behind my back or behind my mom's back. Y me vale madre. I don't care. But like I noticed when we were family parties, when like all the joto jokes, nah.
They stop.
Not that they never did them because
in front of you, pues.
In front of me. In front of my mom especially. I think it was more in front of my mom que de me.
And that's a big thing in like Mexican families. No seas joto, or like
sí.
Just anything you do, like no llores porque es eso. And I think that's why a lot of Latino, Hispanic, Mexicans, they're all afraid to come out because of el machismo que hay en la...
Yeah, and I think that's why I wasn't too scared of coming out to my parents because I never heard homophobic slurs in my house.
They allowed you to be who you wanted to. Llorabas. Sí.
Y cuando, or my parents, like if they saw something on TV or like something about like a gay person, they never talked about it in a negative way.
Or changed the channel or something.
No, it was like kind of like, okay. And like very like whatever, didn't celebrate it, but didn't talk shit about it either.
It was just there. It was...
Yeah, not that there was much on TV at the time, but they never did anything. So I wasn't like scared in that sense. So I never heard homophobic slurs in my house. So all the homophobia I learned growing up was from the outside world. Y eso que no había internet.
Imagine.
So like just up. The way kids related to me, the way adults, teachers related to me, in a good and a bad way. Like I said, teachers were trying to protect me. I noticed, I caught on really quick. I'm like, something's different about me. And there's something about me that causes a reaction in other people. So, but yeah, when my dad, amazing dad, like, I think, did you meet him once?
I don't know, but I feel like I know him porque él me platica siempre, and I'm like, oh, I wish I had a dad. I always tell him that when he shares like his story. Oh, mi papá me trajo eso. I'm like, oh, what is it like to have a good dad? But amazing. You have a beautiful relationship with your parents.
Yeah.
Like I admire that about him, and like not everyone gets as lucky as you.
No, and
do you know like people that have come to you, or like friends that have stories? And
yeah, I did. Coming out when I was younger, I was still in high school. I think I made a friend, and that was the first friend I heard like, oh, my parents kicked me out of the house, and I was like, what? Like to me, it was so like foreign. I was like, your parents kicked you out of your house when you came out? And he's like, yes. It's
because when you grow up, you think that everybody has the same type of parents, like as you do. That you're lucky that you have like that mom that always feeds you or
just protects you.
Protects you all the time, and not everybody has that.
No, and I remember este amigo, like he's like, no, when I came out, he had older brothers. He's like, so the older brothers like rejected me. My parents rejected me, and they kicked me out of the house. And I remember I was like, oh my god, like what? Like I was never, that was never a fear of mine. I knew my parents were gonna love me and care about me, and I'm so blessed. And I didn't realize that until later on that how blessed I am, Because I do have friends where like their families, or they don't have relationships with their families anymore. And it's sad, but at the same time, it's like, you have to do what you have to do. Si no te quieren en un lugar, a la chingada.
And that's, like, I always say that in this podcast, like, you create the family that you want. If
Definitely.
you don't have supportive family members, like, I'm probably closer to you than I'm closer to any of my, like, cousins and stuff.
Yeah, no, same.
We talk about really deep things or, like, funny stuff. We go out, we do this. And you create the family that you want to create when you don't have that support.
Yeah, and, like, for the longest time, those girls that always protected me, those were my family. And up to this day, I still hang out with a lot of girls. Like, I always talk to you about my girls in San Diego. Un saludo a las shoes.
Ya las conocí, and they're really cool. We all got
desmadre. Pero esas son con las que me llevo y conocen todo de mí, and I could talk to them, and those are my chosen family. And then I have my gay friends, que también conociste a unos. Mm-hmm. And these were much later in life, pero también those are my chosen family. And I'm blessed that I have my blood family that protects me, supports me, and is behind me. But I'm also very blessed that I've met people like yourself and the girls and the guys, like the gays. And I'm very surrounded by love. But it took a while for me to actually...
find that.
Not just find it, but I feel like I had it the entire time. I just didn't realize I had it. And like you said at the beginning, right now...
Oh, yeah, that's what I was going to ask you right now.
That que era bien mamón en el trabajo.
Todavía es, pero ahora me habla.
Pero it's a way for me to protect myself.
Yeah.
Go to any any job or anywhere like public, I have to protect myself. So I act very masculine. Hasta la voz me cambia.
Yeah, and I told him that I'm like, because we were talking before when I was setting up, and I told him like, oh yeah, I remember que eras bien mamón, whatever. He's like, and you know why? And I'm like, why? And then he's like, because I have to protect myself. And I was like, you know what? Until like I got really close to you, then I heard like your voice, you know, and like he makes this like different voice around other people.
It's just a way to protect myself. You never know who's cool with it, who's not cool with it. So, también como, like, especially, like, in work environment, I'm like, I'm here to work, so I don't...
No venga a ser amigos.
Yeah, no.
Puros enemigos.
At the beginning, I'm like, no venga a ser amigos. So then, it takes a minute. It takes me a really long time to warm up and be like, all right, this is who I am. And then it didn't just happen with you. The previous job I had, I think I worked there for 2 years before I even, like, actually opened up. I worked at a police department. I was a 911, how can I help
Dispatcher.
you? Entonces, it's a very heavily masculine environment. Puros vatos. At the time, I was really young. I was like 19, 20 years old.
You're a baby.
I was. Y todos los vatos, así como like in their 30s, 40s, puros like, hey, ¿qué onda, güey? Y yo como, okay, I'm going to work here, fuck. So I build a wall, and I'm like, just very professional, and I would be like, hey, good morning.
To yourself.
Yeah. And I didn't like participate. They're like, oh, we're having potluck. You know, it's like, hey, yo, oh, okay, I'll bring you.
¿Y ahora? Puros
potlucks. La reina
de los potlucks.
So that's why, like, I'm very, like, standoffish at the beginning.
And there's reasons why. Because you have been in situations where you were attacked because you were gay.